Hello, Dr. Miaken Zeigler of Zeigler Chiropractic. Welcome to tonight's topic of understanding your immune system. I think we can all agree that, especially what we have undergone as a community, as a country in this last year, that most of us are living to a degree in a state of fear, right? We're scared to be around a person. We're scared to touch a person. We're scared to touch a surface if it hasn't been cleaned. We have little confidence or certainty in our body's ability to express health when coming into contact with a virus, with a bacteria. And so I think this conversation is vital, so that when you have a better understanding of how your immune system works, it can change how you choose to live, the lens in which you're viewing the world. Because natural immunity is amazing. And that is what I want for you in this workshop, is for you to feel empowered and to have a level of understanding that, moving forward, you can feel confident in making choices, whether it's being around your friends or family, or, touching a surface that has or hasn't been cleaned. Of course, be smart. But, you've got really an amazing inborn potential within you. And that's where we're going to start with your immune system. So your immune system is made up of 3 lines of defense. And when your body is exposed to a bacteria or virus, the way that it learns and builds immunity is to go through these 3 lines of defense. So that first line of defense is your skin. Your skin is an impenetrable barrier, that you have sweat glands that constantly secrete an enzyme that break down the bad guy's cell wall. Now, understand, the cell wall of a bacteria or virus is the brain of the bacteria or virus, right? So if you've ever heard of genetic expression, that means that the cell wall, the brain of that bacteria or virus, is constantly learning from its environment and changing and responding to it. So when you destroy that cell wall, you destroy the bad guy. So your skin has, very few breaks in the skin. And where you have breaks in the skin, that's where you've got a different makeup, right? But the breaks in the skin are your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth, your genitals, your anus. Otherwise, it is an impenetrable barrier. So the way that your body protects those breaks in the skin is called a mucous membrane. And that's where your body will secrete mucus, phlegm, very thick, viscous material to protect itself. Example, if you ever had a bug fly into your eye, what happens, right? Immediately you start blinking, you start tearing up, and your body is doing what it can to get rid of that bug and get it out of your eye, right? So mucus traps and kills the bad guy. The other piece in your skin is, have you ever had contact dermatitis, right? That is also a protective measure within your skin, where that rash that that is created on your skin is actually a immune cell that creates that. Because what happens is, when you're exposed to a bacteria virus and it's trying to get in or break into that skin, right, that rash, that contact dermatitis, brings information to that area and says, no, we're not going to break into the skin. So it's actually a really intelligent response by the skin and by your immune system to make sure that nothing can break into the skin. If you've ever heard of a skin graft, a rejection of a skin graft, or a rejection of an organ transplant, understand your immune system knows you very well. It's all it knows is you. And so if it doesn't recognize something being present in the body, then it is going to attack and destroy it. And so all of the pieces that show up around your skin are ways that your body is recognizing things that are not you, and how can it protect itself. Interestingly, there was a news report that came out of Calgary News TV saying that vaccines, people who had vaccines, were actually asymptomatic carriers. Okay. That means that they have the disease, but they're not showing any symptoms because it didn't go through the first line of defense. So understand, when you enter into and through the first line of defense, that's the trigger of your immune system to let the body know there's something going on, there's something that doesn't belong here, and what do we need to do next to take care of it. So when you don't go through the first line of defense, you're not triggering that cascade of events for your immune system to investigate further. So think about it like the first line of defense as the front door alarm. Okay, you've got an alarm on that front door, and as soon as you walk through that front door, or you break into that front door, the alarm goes off. Lets everyone know something's going on, something's not right here. We've got to do some investigation, take care of it. Now, if you have a burglar who goes to the window, right, doesn't trigger that alarm, from the outside, everything looks fine, but on the inside, that burglar is wreaking havoc. That is the difference between, injection of, say, a vaccine that skips the entire lines of defense, and going through and the barrier, that first line of defense, to trigger things for your body to show, hey, there's something going on. So, so let's just talk about this thing here, this first line of defense, because oftentimes when your immune system is doing its job, it can look really bad, often violent, right? Vomiting, diarrhea, phlegm, coughing, sneezing, right? If we think of a kid that's snotty nose, sick, coughing everywhere, just mucus, right? It's really gross. And that's a sign of a healthy response and a healthy immune system. So would you ever want to stop those symptoms from taking place? Right? Let's say you eat something that's not good for your body. It's, food poisoning, right? And your body gets nauseous, you don't feel good. Suddenly you feel like I need to get rid of this, right? But what is our tendency? Right? We're told we need to take Pepto-Bismol. That's going to calm our stomach down. We're actually finding is if you pour Pepto-Bismol out, when it dries like a plastic. Because what it's doing when you drink that, or when you take that, it coats the stomach and allows for that bad guy to get further into the system. So understand, your symptoms are really important and really healthy when it comes to your immune system, because your body is trying to get rid of it as quickly as possible and get rid of all of it. So that's my challenge to you when you're thinking about your immune system, is symptoms are really healthy. It is a sign of a healthy immune system. So I want you to sit with that and think about that as we continue to dive into the lines of defense. So the second line of defense is considered non-specific. It is not going to be specifically attacking one thing over the other. It is just a non-specific response. You've gone through the first line of defense. Now you're meeting the second line of defense. Now I want you to think about this. You walk through that front door, the alarm goes off, triggers a second line of defense, which is non-specific white blood cell. That's like having a guard dog right at that front door. And as you walk through, the alarm goes off, the guard dog knows, you do not look like me. You are not part of my family. I am going to attack. I'm going to fight anybody who does not look like me. Now, the second line of defense is considered acute inflammation, okay? And there's a couple important cells, immune cells, to keep in mind with acute inflammation. The first guard dog is called a mast cell. A mast cell, what happens, it comes into contact with bacteria or virus, And what happens is it comes into contact and it disperses messaging throughout that area to say, hey, something's going on, something's not right. We need to call out more cells, more soldier cells. So mast cells make areas really hot. They make it painful. It gets swollen. And that response is signaling other soldier cells to come to the area. Okay, so that's the first guard dog. The second guard dog is called a cytokine, which is a protein. And this is a protein that releases a signal to bring an army of cells. Okay, so going through and having this acute inflammatory process is really vital in terms of bringing in a non-specific response to help restore healing to the area. Now, here's a question for you. Is fever a good thing? Some people may say yes, some people may say no. The average person will think that the fever is a bad thing. You want to bring that fever down. Okay, the average temperature that our body should be at is on average 98.6 degrees. But that is for a normal, healthy environment. If you have a bacteria or you've taken on a virus, is that considered a normal environment? No, it's not. So would we expect our temperature to stay normal if internal environment is not normal? We shouldn't, right? So what is happening when we have a fever, right? Let's say we have a bacteria and we know that to kill the bacteria, we need to raise our temperature to 102 degrees. Okay. Have you ever had cold sweats? Right. Let's say, it's the middle of the night and you're not feeling so good and you get hot and you get sweaty. So like, oh, I got to pull the covers off. And if we know that your body knows that at 102 degrees, that's going to kill off that bacteria, right? So you pull off the covers and then immediately a couple minutes later, chilly, pull on the covers and cover yourself up. That is your body intelligently keeping you at that 102. We don't need to go higher. We don't need to go lower. So you are going to feel shivers and you're going to feel sweat in order to keep that 102 degree temperature. So here's the thing. When your temperature raises, it's creating an environment for that bacteria to slow down, inability to do its job, and for your immune system to take over and get rid of it. So one research that I'm constantly debunking, has anybody ever used rice in acute inflammation? If you've ever sprained your ankle or sprained something, you're told, I need to rest, ice, right? Compress and elevate. This is a textbook that's nearly 50 years old, written by a Dr. Miaken. And what we're finding, what recent research is finding, is that if we ice too soon during the acute inflammatory process, you're actually slowing the healing process by days, okay? Same with anti-fever medication. If you're taking aspirin, Tylenol, ibuprofen, when you are sick during this acute inflammatory process, you are staying sick longer. So this is, although does not feel good, okay, the second line of defense does not feel good at all. You are hot, you are feverish, you are feeling pain, you are, sweaty and cold, and you're inflamed. This doesn't feel good, but this is a healthy response and vital response for your immune system to do its job. So when you stop that fever, or when you ice that ankle, although it feels better, you're lengthening the time for your body to recover and heal. Now, one thing in terms of fever, okay, I'm not saying just ignore your symptoms, let that fever run. I want you to be smart about it, right? Yes, we are concerned if a temperature gets too high, but I want you to watch what is energy levels, how are you responding to your environment, How are you feeling? Are you able to keep food down, or are you thirsty, or, just be smart about it, right? But understand that fever is intelligent, and a big part of your second line of defense, so that you can heal and regulate appropriately and respond to, whatever you're exposed to body-wise. So I want to show you what it looks like. I want to show you a specific cell, what it looks like, self-healing, self-regulating. So we are going to go to YouTube, and I want to show you a white blood cell. Okay, so let's hit play. So this big guy right here, that is a big white blood cell, and he is going after a bacteria or virus. Now, I want you to understand that this is happening all the time. We don't have to think about this ever. This is this inborn, innate response of your immune system, understanding and recognizing that this does not belong in our body, and it is going after, relentlessly following and taking care of whatever we're exposed to. This is inborn. This is happening all the time. And this is amazing. So that's what I want to really, bring to your attention, is that our bodies are amazing and intelligent and designed to take care of this all the time, right? We just need to make sure we're supporting the body and taking care of our body so that it is resilient. And when it's recognizing that there's something going on that shouldn't be in the body, right, that it can take care of it. So, anyway, I love seeing that white blood cell in action. That's happening all the time. Okay, so you have the first line of defense, which is our skin. Next, we go into the second, which is a non-specific white blood cell response of acute inflammation, does not feel good. Now we're getting into the third line of defense. Now, the third line of defense is specific. This is acquired response. So previously, the immune system recognizes you and only you. If it's not you, it attacks. With this specific and acquired third line of defense, it means that you have a guard dog, but it is specific to a pathogen. So let's say you walk into that front door, okay? The alarm sounds, you've got the guard dog, the second line of defense, that's attacking everything. This third line of defense is specific. It is a guard dog that's, say, looking for somebody with a red shirt. Okay, I am only looking for the red shirt. Okay, if you don't have a red shirt, I am not interested. So the great thing about these guard dogs, you've got two, killer cell and memory cell. But what the guard dog does is he says, hey, we're looking for this red shirt. This is what he looks like. He shows on the red shirt. So it's called cell presentation, which attracts killer cells and memory cells. Okay, killer cells are ones that go in, take care of it, get rid of it. Memory cells are actually cataloging, this specific pathogen or this specific bacteria. So your immune system creates this, in this third line of defense, very specific cells that recognize a specific pathogen or virus, right? So I think you probably heard the term antigen or antibody. I want you to understand that antigen is the bad guy, okay? It is the virus or it is the bacteria. Antibody is the good guy. And that is what, is happening in this third line of defense, where your body is recognizing a specific pathogen, creating memory and cataloging it. And it has a specific antidote, which is that antibody to take care of, the virus. I want to just put a pause here because I am talking about, this is the line of defense that vaccines are meant to address. And when I say vaccines, I'm not talking about this new COVID vaccine, because the COVID vaccine is very different than, you know, the vaccines that we get for measles, mumps, rubella. You know, these vaccines are giving either a small dose of a live virus or not, and giving the immune system the memory and the information to have antibodies. Okay. The COVID vaccine is very different. So understand, I'm not talking about the COVID vaccine here. But that is the intent with this third line of defense. When you get vaccinated, they're trying to provide antibodies for you. And so here's the thing, if you don't go through all three lines of defense, your body doesn't have memory of it. And that's a difference with natural immunity and artificial or acquired immunity through vaccines, because it's injecting it right into the blood. It bypasses all the other pieces that are required for that memory. And so that's where you need boosters, right? Because your immune system doesn't have memory of creating this, because it's never experienced it outside of getting the injection. So understand, this is long-term immunity. This is the intelligence piece where your immune system knows the difference between self and non-self. And the example I'd love to give is the chickenpox. First, does anyone know why they started giving the chickenpox vaccine? Right? It's not deadly. Chickenpox is not deadly. The reason they did was because of lost productivity from mom and dad. When children had chickenpox, they had to take 3-5 days off, right? So they said, hey, we can make a vaccine for this, so mom and dad don't need to take time off work, and we'll be good to go. So that's the reason we have a chickenpox vaccine, not because it's deadly, but because it's convenient, okay? So pre-vaccine, what happened, long-term immunity was, let's say, you know, I'm a kid, I got chickenpox, right? Went through the 3 lines of defense. My immune system created memory cells around this so that, you know, if I was ever exposed to it again, my body would know what to do, create the antibodies for it to take care of this antigen, chickenpox, okay? I grew up, and let's say I had a child who was then exposed to chickenpox. So because I've had chickenpox before, and then again, exposed to it by my, you know, through my child having chickenpox, then my immune system says, oh yeah, chickenpox, we've seen this before. Let's just make sure we make some more antibodies, take care of this, right? So that exposure allows those antibodies to continually be made to take care of, you know, when I'm exposed to it. And then I get older, and guess what? My child has a child. So now my grandchild is exposed to chickenpox, gets chickenpox, and I'm exposed to chickenpox. So my body makes antibodies for it. Well, if anyone's aware of shingles, right? Same virus, but shingles tends to impact or afflict the older population. Chickenpox is the only virus that works like this, is that when you've got high exposure, right? When you're continually exposed to chickenpox, your body's going to make antibodies for it, right? But if you're not exposed to chickenpox anymore, your body's going to, and your immune system is say, oh, this isn't needed. So it's going to go below a threshold. And so when I am exposed to the chickenpox, you know, virus, whether it's a wild virus or from a vaccine, you're not going to have enough antibodies to counteract that. So we see a lot more shingles taking place in the older population. Now we have a shingles vaccine for it, but that's typically how it worked back in the day pre-vaccine. So understand, your third line of defense, vital to create a specific long-term immunity to viruses. And this is the cool thing. So one research article I've been reading is that if you've been exposed to any coronaviruses in the past, then your immune system has a cross sensitivity to those coronaviruses. And so your immune system is more apt to be able to respond intelligently and take care of a coronavirus if you've been exposed previously to it, right? So that's natural immunity. And a lot of times, and all the time, we're exposed to bacteria and viruses. And if we have a healthy immune system, then we don't even know that our immune system's taking care of it, right? That's the key. How can you have a healthy immune system? So let's just talk about that for a second. So we have something called the germ theory. I'm going to move me over here. We have something called the germ theory, which basically means if you have the germ, it causes disease, right? This germ causes this disease. Well, I love to take a look at, and really it's a sad story, but this is a conjoined Russian twins, Dasha and Masha. And these twins were born in 1940s, and they shared a circulatory system, a digestive system, excretory system, lymphatic system, endocrine and skeleton systems, but they had a separate brain, they had a separate spinal cord and column. And what was interesting about these two, girls, Masha and Dasha, is that one tended to be healthier than the other, right? Masha smoked. She had a healthier constitution, had higher blood pressure, had good eyesight. Dasha tended to be short-sighted. She was prone to colds and sicknesses. And throughout their life, flus, colds, and other childhood diseases were experienced separately, including one of them had measles. Why is that? They shared the same circulatory system, right? So they both were exposed to they both were exposed to the germs. It's just that one of them got sick when one of them didn't. And what's fascinating is, what's the difference? They had separate brains and they had separate spinal cords. So when you have a healthy, resilient brain and nervous system, you're going to be, responding differently to your environment. And there's tons of research showing that the chiropractic adjustment impacts your immune system. It has an effect with the immune system. Why is that? Because when we look at, again, you guys are getting chiropractic care. So I want you to understand how the brain and nervous system are connected to the immune system. Is that the first organ to form in utero was the brain, right? And the spinal cord. And from the brain came every cell, tissue, organ, gland in the body. The brain was control of its development and control of its function from day one to the last day of life. Okay. So we go to that spine because if there's any stress or malalignment within that spine, it's impacting the brain's ability to respond to your environment, right? If you have malalignment and stress, that means the information going in is not great. So how your brain processes that information and the output is skewed, poor output. So we know that the brain and the immune system have an intricate relationship. And now we also know that the microbiome, so your gut health, have an intricate connection to your immune system and to your brain. Your gut's actually called your second brain. But we're not going to get into that today because that's a whole nother topic and it's fascinating. But you have all of these systems that are intricately connected. And we have the hierarchy of, if you've got a resilient, healthy, adaptable brain, then you likely have a pretty healthy immune system and, pretty healthy body. Because the germ theory, although I appreciate the theory, it means if the germ is present, then you have XYZ. But we know that, we can have, germ exposure, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what we're going to have, right? Doesn't mean, I'm exposed to measles, doesn't mean I'm automatically going to get measles. It's about, do you have a healthy immune system that takes care of it where you don't even know or experience symptoms because it's no problem, right? Which is really great and wonderful. So we don't even have to think about that. So Masha and Dasha, certainly look them up. They are fascinating and actually quite sad. We got a lot of information on how the brain and body work through experimentation on them, but really, really quite fascinating. So one other thing I just wanted to touch on, when it comes to, you know, your immune system, know that when I'm looking right here, this bullet point right here, evidence of healing is your body's immune system is in the process of adapting, learning, and integrating and growing. When you are experiencing all of those symptoms that do not feel good, right? That is an indicator that your immune system is learning, it's growing, it's adapting to, you know, to your environment, right? If it's exposed to something new, it might be a little uncoordinated, but it learns its lessons and then it grows more resilient as a result, right? I was talking to my pediatrician with Margot, and I said, well, how many colds do you expect to see, you know, a child have in the first year? And they said, you know, we expect to see children have 6 to 8 colds, you know, especially in the first year, 6 to 8 colds. They're around children, they're exposed to a lot of things, their immune system is learning, immune system is growing. It's a vital part of, you know, life. And we're concerned about these kids who aren't around, you know, other kids, and they're not getting exposed, they're not getting sick until potentially later in life. And we don't know what that's going to do, right? So getting sick is a part of learning and growing for the immune system, because it needs to be exposed to different things so that it can grow and become more highly adaptive and create that memory bank of all the germs it's exposed to, right? And then you have that cross sensitivity to, you know, being exposed to similar strains of things, you know, you're better able to handle it, right? So, I mean, the last thing I really want to touch on is germs, right? I think we think of germs as being negative, but understand the human body is made up of 95% microbes or 95% bacteria. We have 3 to 4 pounds of microbes, and that includes bacteria, viruses, fungi, even parasites that are in our digestive tract that are hugely beneficial to help us digest our food, regulate our immune system, produce neurotransmitters, make us smarter, more focused, and happier. I mean, it impacts our ability to perceive our environment and, you know, our mood. So important. So germs aren't the bad guy, right? We've got to start talking about building the immunity and the health of the host. That's really where the conversation needs to be. And so, again, we can wipe things down and we can be as clean as we, you know, and focus on the clean piece and not exposing ourselves. But, you know, that comes with a cost. You know, children exposed to bleach cleaners are 20% more likely to have infections like chronic coughs and colds. Germs aren't the problem. It's the health of the person, you know, who has the germ, right? So I find this topic so fascinating. You know, we just covered a little bit, and really there's so many things to understand when it comes to our immune system. But know that you have an intelligent system. It needs to be exposed, and it needs to, you know, go through that process of those 3 lines of defense to go through the healing and the learning pieces. And ultimately, the big piece is, what are you doing to take care of you to be the most resilient that you can? So it doesn't matter what you're exposed to, right? And that'll be the next immune talk we look at is, you know, what boosts immune function, because it is multifaceted. So I appreciate you. I am grateful that you are here, and I look forward to seeing you at our next workshop or in the office. But if you are experiencing, chronic sickness, you get sick frequently. If when you get sick, it lasts for a long duration, your body isn't able to handle it or take care of it. If you've got any poor, indicators of distortion in your posture, unhealthy posture, those are signs that would indicate your immune system may be under stress. And so I challenge you to get checked. If you haven't been checked, haven't been to a chiropractor, the time is now, right? All of us need to take personal responsibility when it comes to our health, because we are the only ones who can take care of ourselves, right? And the sooner you do it, better off you are in the long haul, right? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and you are worth it. So I am here to partner with you when you are ready. So again, Dr. Miaken Zeigler of Zeigler Chiropractic, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.